Hey everyone, welcome back to Harry Potter Folklore. So today, I want to talk about why Voldemort never turned the Sword of Gryffindor into a Horcrux. But you'll have already guessed that by the title of today's video anyway. So if you check out Voldemort's Horcruxes, you'll have noticed a trend in that he seemed to be collecting the Hogwarts founders' ancient artifacts. Basically, one personal item that was synonymous with each founder. He located the locket of Salazar Slytherin and converted it into a Horcrux. He did the same with the cup of Helga Hufflepuff and went 3 out of 4 by tricking Helena Ravenclaw into revealing the location of the lost diadem before turning that item into a Horcrux. So as I said, it's a bit of a trend, and it raises the question as to why he didn't add the Sword of Gryffindor to his Horcrux collection, as that item was basically the most powerful of the 4. Come to think, he could have even used the sorting hat as a Horcrux, like he had 2 options from Gryffindor and chose none of them. But I'll talk a little about the hat later. Anyway, let's take a look at the sword so we can work this whole thing out. The Sword of Gryffindor is one of those complicated magical items that falls under a rather simplistic nature and design, meaning the simplicity of the sword stems from all the cool things it can do, which actually can appear complicated. Like, it has loopholes, if you will. It stands out from the other Hogwarts artifacts for those reasons. The sword is goblin made, so that's goblin steel, which is known for its incredible ability to deflect dark magic. It's got goblin gemstones, all the craftsmanship is non-human, non-wizard made, whereas the other artifacts appear to be wizard made. The diadem was crafted by Rowena Ravenclaw herself, the locket was imbued with the magic of the horned serpent, and the Hufflepuff cup is a golden cup enchanted by Helga herself. So let's look at the reasons as to why Voldemort may have chose not to and also could not convert the sword into a Horcrux. Well, for starters, the sword didn't really belong to anyone, and what I mean by that is it's nearly impossible to claim possession of it since Gryffindor's passing. The sword tends to disappear and reappear to a Gryffindor student who needs it. When the student in need no longer needs it, the sword disappears again and ends up back in the headmaster's office. Well, sometimes. It's also been known to stay with someone who truly deserves to wield it. So this means that there is a lot of uncertainty surrounding the sword in terms of whether it's going to be there when you wake up the next morning. Can you imagine Voldemort locating the sword, turning it into a Horcrux, then wakes up the next day and it's disappeared, and it's just like one of his Horcruxes is now somewhere random? I don't believe he'd appreciate that so much. Can you then imagine the grey area surrounding what would happen if Voldemort did try to turn it into a Horcrux? The sword was already imbued with basilisk venom, which destroys Horcruxes. So if the Dark Lord tries to stick his soul into it, could the 2 forms of magic corrupt one another, resulting in the total failure of the Horcrux? Did Voldemort even think of that? Did he even consider it as a downside? I'd like to think he considered it, but we can never be too sure. If you just go back to trying to locate the sword for a moment, that would have been quite challenging for the Dark Lord, as the sword's true resting place was, of course, in the sorting hat. That's where it appeared, as the 2 were linked together. Yes, it appeared on display in the headmaster's office and remained there for some time, but that may have been down to the sword feeling it was in a place of worthy and honour, as Dumbledore was not only the greatest wizard of the age, but also one of the best Gryffindor students the house has ever produced. Who put him there? The sorting hat, of course. What's connected to the sorting hat? The sword, obviously. So I believe it all links together, and that's the only reason it remained on display without any issue. It's not to say that Voldemort didn't actually seek out the sword, as a fake copy sat in the Lestrange family vault and appeared as quite a convincing copy. Only a goblin was able to tell if it was a fake. I think the sword slips into the similar category as a wand, in that it can almost have feelings and opinions of its own. Then we have the time frame at which Voldemort created his other Horcruxes and his overall plan. We have to consider this, so listen to me and just bear with me for this, guys, okay? You see, a Horcrux has to be placed into an object of significant importance to the wizard creating it. When it came to the diary, it was Tom's personal property that was once a blank plane to consume his thoughts and ideas before he magically enhanced it, so it meant a lot to him. The Gaunt family ring, well, that was passed down throughout the generations of the Gaunt family, which is, of course, Voldemort's bloodline. Don't forget, before he turned it into a Horcrux, he wore that ring with pride during his schooling days. He rather unexpectedly came across both the locket of Slytherin and the Hufflepuff cup after his encounter with Hepzibah Smith. The locket, obviously the possession of his ancestor and Hogwarts founder Salazar Slytherin, someone he valued greatly, and as for the Hufflepuff cup, it was an artifact from another Hogwarts founder, Hogwarts being close and dear to his rather icy cold heart, if he even has one. It was actually the only place he ever felt at home, a place where he felt he belonged. So to be able to place a portion of his soul into the cup was him solidifying his connection with everything the school embraces, and that explains why he went after the Ravenclaw diadem. It was another representation of the school he deeply cared for. Now Nagini was also something of great importance to the Dark Lord and seems to be the only real thing he cared for. So what's the beef with the Sword of Gryffindor? Why not add it to the collection? Well, for starters, let's just highlight Voldemort's overall plan for his creation of Horcruxes in general. He wanted 7 pieces of his soul, including the one that resided within himself, and 7 was a number surrounded with mystical magical properties, but that proved to be a big, fat flop theory as it had no effect whatsoever. But that's not what Voldemort thought, that's not what he believed. In addition to that, Godric Gryffindor opposed everything that Salazar Slytherin stood for. He wanted Muggleborns and Half-Bloods to embrace their magical ability. He encouraged the picture of magical and Muggle bloods to create a better unified society and a more compassionate understanding of both sides for everyone. Slytherin, on the other hand, despised everything about that concept. He wanted a pure blood society. He hated the mixture of magical and Muggle blood. He accused Muggleborns of somehow stealing magic to harness it for themselves. He even bred a giant basilisk, a huge ass snake, to purge the school of Muggleborns and constructed the Chamber of Secrets for the creature to reside in. So it could have been Voldemort's mindset that anything to do with Godric Gryffindor was an absolute insult. Why would he want the sword of the man who opposed his ancestor to the point of him actually deserting the other founders? It was always Gryffindor and Slytherin who had the most tension. If anything, Voldemort would destroy the sword, not place his soul inside it, which may explain why the sword, well, the fake sword, remained in the Lestrange family vault, so he could figure out how to actually destroy it or keep it out of the public eye so it can join the other 3 in a sort of lost relic status. Guys, let's just revisit what I was saying about the sword's location. It sat in the headmaster's office, and I've explained, despite its natural resting place in the sorting hat, that it was happy to remain in the office, the headmaster's office. The headmaster being Albus Dumbledore, the only person to ever see through Tom Riddle's bullshit, and who was, of course, the only wizard the Dark Lord feared, as he did not believe himself truly capable of defeating Dumbledore in a fair fight. So with that taken into account, Voldemort was hardly going to walk into Hogwarts and into Dumbledore's office and say, "Hey you, I'm taking that sword." No, he's not going to do that. It was only through the use of the Elder Wand, which wasn't even loyal to him, did he even break the Potato barrier during the Battle of Hogwarts, so I have major doubts he'd have even made it into the school. It's also important to just look at the overall aspect of the sword and examine what I'd consider a simplistic view. The sword takes in what makes it stronger. It absorbed basilisk venom because it makes it a stronger offensive weapon. So that brings us to the point of if it could even be suitable as a Horcrux in the first place. Ask yourself this: how would a torn portion of a wizard's soul make the sword stronger? How would that make it more offensively effective? Don't forget it's made from goblin metal, which is a natural deflection for dark magic. It's possible the sword's original goblin-instilled magical properties could definitely reject the dark magic that comes with the Horcrux. The only thing that comes to mind that even possibly connects Voldemort to trying to locate the sword was when he returned to Hogwarts seeking a teaching position, which would therefore give him more of an open access to the headmaster's office if he could somehow gain Dumbledore's trust. However, that was pretty much squashed after the first 60 seconds of his conversation with Dumbledore, but Tom did have enough time to hide the diadem in the room of requirement, so it does highlight in some way that he was keen on gaining access to certain locations in the school for his own personal gain. Anyway guys, there you have it. That is my take on why Voldemort never turned the Sword of Gryffindor into a Horcrux. If you have any additional reasons then let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, make sure to look out for my next video.